Peace and love, everyone.
Hey, everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And, Robert, you have been, for as long as I've known you, you've been a music writer and you've written for a number of publications and you
I
still
have.
write for publications. And this has been a lifelong thing you've done. And recently, just the other day, something really kind of cool happened. You were invited to attend a virtual press conference with none other than Ringo Starr
That's right.
and
And his all-star band.
all the members of his all star band, which includes such
Exactly.
luminaries as Steve Lukather from Toto, Greg Bissonette, who I
Right.
can remember back from the David Lee Roth band days.
Right. That's where he got, that's kind of his claim to fame. That's where he kind of got his, his reputation was playing with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I know there's some other
Colin Hay
big
from Men
names
at
that,
Work. Colin Hay from Men at Work.
yeah.
So yeah, and then Edgar Winter is also now in the band. He's a recent addition
Yeah.
and from the Edgar Winter group. So,
Yeah.
we're talking about some pretty heavy hitters in the classic rock world.
Absolutely, yeah. But the other thing about this is that normally, I just get to hear about this from you secondhand. Oh, you attended this or you went to that. But this time, I got to attend this with you because it was virtual. And so
Right.
this was very cool for me. And first of all, thank you. It was really great just being able to just sit and observe and be part of it. Um, but let's talk about this. I thought we should talk about this with the YouTube audience here.
Yeah.
And we've both seen, as it turns out, you in the past have seen Ringo Starr perform with his all star band. Before COVID, I had a chance to see him perform with his band when Todd Rundgren was in the band, and
Right.
at the time,
Great,
so was
great
Steve
lineup.
Lukather, so was Greg Bissonette. Um, so just talk about some of your thoughts on this press
Well,
conference, and yeah,
yeah,
just give us some.
because there's so much to digest here. First of all, the event was very cool because it wasn't just Ringo, it was the other members of his band. I have frequently been invited to go to kind of some of the press events with Ringo, but they were usually during the day, and I would have had to dealt with all the traffic issues of going into Hollywood
Mhm.
and you know at during the day and as everyone out there probably knows, when you go into a major metropolitan area, parking is not easy, traffic is unpredictable, so on and so I always opted not to, and then I would just hear about it after. This afforded us both, TJ, the opportunity to kind of participate and see what was going on. And I'm a longtime fan, obviously, of the Beatles,
Yeah.
and I attended the first All Star band tour back in 1989. I'm dating myself here a little bit, and I've gone a number of times. Most recently, like you, I attended pre-COVID. I went to the Greek Theater in 2018
Mhm.
and saw Ringo Starr and company. So, like you, I'm a big fan of the Beatles, and obviously that includes Ringo Starr. One thing that impressed me watching the Q&A via Zoom, yeah, like you said a few days ago, TJ, was when just to think about that, the Beatles worked together roughly with Ringo under 10 years as far as him joining the lineup. The All Star Band has been around for 34 years, which kind of blew me away thinking about
Yeah.
it. And yet they're touring now. Their tour plans for 2023 are pretty ambitious, and I think they're playing more now than they did when they were younger. And Ringo made a point that he wanted to play as often as he could. He said, touring is difficult, but he loves to play. As far as he's concerned, he would play every day. He doesn't want to sit around in a hotel room for a few days waiting for the next show. He just wants, he said, if the band is up and is as strong as they are now, hey, just get out there and play. And the audience is kind of just a give and take with the audience. It's really a wonderful thing for him, and he just loves to play. So it was kind of neat to get these insights into him. Why at his age? Because I believe Ringo's obviously in his early 80s now, and he just wants to keep getting out there and playing, which is great. And I would tell everyone out there, if you have not seen Ringo Starr, have not seen a member of the Beatles, get out there and go see him because it is a great band he's with too.
Yeah. And you never know how long with any of with Ringo, with Paul, with any of the members of the All-Star band, with any of these classic rock artists, you never know how long they may or may not be around. I hate to be morbid,
Yeah,
but you just never know. And so yeah,
yeah.
take the opportunity if you
I
have
mean, we
that.
talked off camera, TJ, about Jeff Beck seemed great. He had been performing,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, he was in his 70s, and we lost Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
And everybody was shocked. Ringo is a few years older than Jeff Beck was when he passed away. So get out and see him. And he is still really great. And his voice, you know, and you tell me whether you agree with that. His voice, I'd say, is pretty much about 85% as great as it was when he was doing tracks, in the Beatles, like Yellow
Yeah.
Submarine or and that kind of thing. He sounds great.
Yeah. At one point, someone he was asked, how do you keep going at this age? In fact, at some point they were all asked that.
Yeah,
And it's funny, I don't think any of them really answered it properly, but it's all a question of what you're conditioned to do. You know,
yeah,
if you're used to playing all the time, because I mean, I know I used to play working man's gigs where I had to play and sing for 3 to 4 hours a night, and sometimes 4 to 5 nights a week. And you just build up condition. It's like anything else. The first time I tried to swim 2 laps in a pool, I was out of breath. But then when I got in shape, kept swimming and swimming. After a while, swimming 20 laps at the gym, for 20 minutes, or swimming for 20, 30 minutes straight without stopping, that just became common because you just get conditioned to it. It's the same thing with playing. They're all conditioned. They've been doing it, like Steve Lukather said, I've been doing it my whole life.
yeah.
It's all I've ever done. And so he's conditioned because performing like that is very physical. And
It is.
I really do think that if you are a musician and you play all the time, I really think that it does wonders for you health wise. This is
Yeah,
suddenly becoming a health video, but
yeah.
I really do
Funny.
believe this. I really do think this, especially with especially when the playing is very physical, like it is with rock and roll.
Exactly. I agree with you, TJ,
Not
very
just the
much. Yeah,
movement, but also the energy, but also if you're singing, that's the other part of it. I used to have to do those gigs where, and I was the only person singing for 3 hours. It's just the amount of oxygen you take in. You know, it's 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 like you're working out your lungs. It's cardiovascular. Sorry, I don't mean this to turn into a physical fitness video. It's just happening. But as I was watching them, I remember I just thought to myself, I didn't want to say anything out loud, but I was just thinking, well, yeah, they're conditioned for it. None of them
yeah,
really said that. I'm surprised. But anyways,
yeah,
though, I'm getting off topic here on that, I think, a bit. But yeah, I agree with you. If you have that opportunity, you really should. And I
yeah.
was impressed with the show that I saw, pre-COVID with Todd Rundgren in the band. In fact, um, after the concert was over, I went to a public restroom, and I'm not sure how the conversation started, but I just bumped into just a total stranger. Was, hey, quite a concert, huh? Yeah, you know. And he's like, yeah, I feel like I actually attended six concerts all at once. This is
Right,
because every single artist that was on stage with him, they all did along with him. They did their own hits as
right,
well. They're doing Ringo's hits, both with the Beatles and solo.
right.
They're, since Todd Rundgren was there, they did some of his big hit
Big
singles.
hits,
Steve
exactly.
Lukather's there. They're going to do some of his big hit singles with Toto.
Right,
It's
exactly.
just that's just
It's
that's
very
part of what
cool.
the
And
show's about.
and what they talked about yesterday, or whatever day that was we saw them. I'm in a twilight zone here, TJ, but
Yeah,
they talked about they each bring, when they get together, they're not trying to do it verbatim, even if they kind of go into it like, oh, we're going to play, let's say a Toto, we're going to do Africa the way Toto did it. It ends up Ringo will do something else on the drums, or Colin Hay might add something different on the guitar. So all of a sudden it kind of gets to be the stamp of the All-Star band. And because this particular lineup, other than Todd Rundgren, has been pretty intact for a while, they have really firmly established kind of their own sound. And I think it's a good sound. I think that they do justice to all these classic rock hits, like you're saying, whether it's a song from Ringo's solo career or the Beatles, or from Toto or the Average White Band or so on and so forth. And I think it is, and you know, these shows are just a hell of a lot of fun too. I mean,
Yeah.
these are not like a show like a Bruce Springsteen show or maybe like an intense show like The Cure or something. These are very much festive and kind of people reliving their youth, but they're also playing some amazing great songs and they
Yeah.
do justice to those.
When I saw them, everybody was at the top of their game as far as
Yeah.
playing. And there is that, that also brings up another point, something that I always would say to other musicians. You know, when I had my own band, and if ever I talk to younger musicians, you know, that they want to talk to me about advice and that sort of thing, I always tell them, you know, it's oh, you always have to put the song first. And all those the musicians we're talking about, they all express that the song comes first. You know, it doesn't have to be verbatim like the record, but everybody plays to the song versus, and what happens, a
Exactly.
lot of musicians want to play to their ego. You know,
Hmm.
that's what separates, I think, the men from the boys, is
Right.
knowing how to play to the song versus playing to your ego. And it's
Right.
not all about you, it's about the song. And so everything
Yeah.
you do has to be to service the song. And when you do that, everybody shines. And
Yeah.
that was a little clip as they talked about. Each one of them said, well, you know, we are here to serve the song. I said, God, I wish I could save that little clip and just put it out there,
Yeah.
and, you know, so that any young musician that asks me about this, say, here, listen to what these guys are saying. This is what's important, is playing to the song. Anyways, again, I got sidetracked. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, no, good point. And I think we just wanted to get together today to talk because we were both pretty excited by
Yeah.
getting to attend it. Like I said, I'd wanted to attend something like that. I think, and
It
I
was
may have
also
mentioned
hard for you because of your day job too, to be able to get
exactly
out
it
of your day
was
job to go during the day because you've got all these work commitments going on.
exactly. And
Yeah.
about a little bit over 10 years ago or so, I did get to go to an event in person where I got to briefly meet Ringo Starr. I didn't get my photo
A photo op.
or anything, but it was a thrill, and you know, so having been a lifelong fan, it was like now I've kind of done something else that I hadn't experienced with one of the Beatles is virtually attend a press conference
That's great.
with one of them.
That's great. That's great. Anyhow, though, one other little thing that I wanted to bring up here about this that I think might be interesting is that at the end of it, Ringo mentioned, he said, you know, he said to everybody that was putting on this press conference, he says, you know, nothing against any of you, you know, you all know your jobs, but he said, I miss the old days, he said, when these things were more like circuses, when the press was actually there in front of you and all of them were yelling, trying to get a question in, and you were trying to field their questions. And sometimes they asked you something really off the wall and you just answered whatever came out of your mouth. And sometimes it was crazy. And of course, he is talking about the early days of the Beatles when it was crazy, when they were at the heart of this storm, you know. And the only thing that would be like that right
Right,
now, I guess, would
right,
be like, say, if it was one of those K-pop bands that are really popular, all the girls go crazy over them.
right.
You know, the Beatles were in a
Like
storm
Blackpink
similar
or
to that,
something like that. Yeah,
very similar to
yeah,
that, yeah. And so if
right.
that was the case, then yeah, you'd have all these press showing up there to yell out questions, that sort of thing. But he was talking about how he said, yeah, I kind of miss that spontaneity. You know, I kind of miss that whole feel of that back then. And you know, it's probably also because these are, you know, they're at a different stage in their career versus say some, you know, whoever is the hot thing with all the girls at this point, you know,
Exactly,
because, you know,
exactly.
before the K-pop bands, it was, you know, it was like during the 90s, it was like the NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, you know,
Boy
those things,
bands.
the
Yeah,
boy bands, those type of
exactly.
things. Yeah. Um, and that
Well,
brought
it's
to
like when
mind
I went to
something.
Coachella.
No, what?
No, I was going to say it's funny. It's like when I saw Gorillaz at Coachella, and then Bad Bunny came out. All of a sudden, you heard everybody screaming because Bad Bunny is very hot right now.
Yeah.
So you know, it's that kind of thing or something like
Yeah.
that. So I hear you what you're
Yeah.
saying.
but when he's talked about that, it brought up something that I read in Elton John's biography, his book, his recent book that he wrote, where he basically wrote his memoirs. And he talked about how in the present day, today's pop stars are trained, coached on how to talk to the press. So they don't say something that might be embarrassing, something that might cause a lot of controversy, you know, like, for instance, oh, I don't know, John Lennon saying, you know, we're bigger than God, something like that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
We all know about that, of course. Um,
Yeah.
but, you know, and Elton said, you know, when I was coming up in the 70s, there was no coaching from the record labels, you know, as to what to say. You just said whatever. Sometimes you said
Yeah.
something embarrassing. Sometimes you said something that got you into trouble. But
Right.
it was
Exactly.
just wild, he said. It was just, and I hear what I kind of thought about that. I hear what Ringo's talking about. There's that wild element, you know, that just seems to be missing. So many of the press at that during that were just asking them all just kind of the same questions over and over again, kind
Yeah.
of asking
Yeah.
safe questions, nothing really all
Uh-huh.
that daring, I have to say.
Yeah.
But hearing him say that at the end of it all, when he brought that up, just saying, I kind of miss the way it used to be when it was more like a circus. You know,
Right. But they may
I,
have been asking about their haircuts or about girls or something. And these were much more kind of formal, standardized type
they,
questions. Like, and I understand that because they were put in writing ahead of the way it worked, TJ, is that
hmm,
reporters would submit their questions in writing, and then the person that his publicist would kind of read those off, and they probably, I'm sure they were inundated with questions. So probably
yeah,
the questions, and
yeah.
like you said, sometimes they could consolidate from two different reporters would be consolidated
Oh,
into
yeah.
one.
And
So
I understand that because you've got
yeah,
so many people wanting to ask questions. I get that.
yeah,
But I kind of have to think about his comments, and I relate that to what Elton John said about today's pop stars being coached,
uh-huh,
you know, on how to talk to the media and the press. And it's kind of, I have to admit, I kind of miss some of that too. As
yeah,
a
yeah,
fan, an audience member, some of that wild spontaneity that he's referring to, I don't know, maybe that's a topic for another day, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
But
Very well,
yeah,
it might be.
yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? So, anyways, I just want to say thanks for getting me in on this. I really appreciate it. It was great. Maybe we can do more of these in the future, and maybe we can talk about them here on the channel. Let us know what you think. Was this interesting for you? Let us know. Um, as always, if you like these videos, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. A big thank you to the patron supporters. Um, Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you later, everyone.